microfinance was really hot, and I wanted to look at what is this whole model about microfinance. And so I applied to an institution here called Ujjivan. Today they're the third largest MFI, and I told them, look, I want to really work, and I really want to understand microfinance. Right? And they said, you're an engineer, then why don't you help us build a solution, a technology solution that will really help us improve the service that we are delivering. Right? And I said, yeah, but I really want to really want to understand your model. I want to go out in the field. I want to talk to customers and things like that, right? And like how Anuj was asked about a language requirement, I was also asked about Kannada, right? So I took Kannada tuitions. There was this. I went to this slightly, college-going student, and I asked her, "Can you give me tuitions?" And she gave me tuitions, and very quickly she gave up in 2 weeks. So I wrote down my questions in Hindi so that I could get the pronunciation right? And on my first day arrived, I don't want to disappoint my employer. I say, look, I'm ready to go into the field, and I know Kannada really well. And they said, okay, but there's a van that's going out, but it's going to Hosur, which is in Tamil Nadu. And they said, don't worry, we'll put you in touch with a field agent who knows Kannada, right? And you'll be all right. I said, okay. So we go, they drop me off on the highway, and they say, now he'll take you from here. So I look up at him, and we say, okay. We just say hi. And as soon as the van leaves, I realize he also doesn't know Kannada well. He's also faking it. He only knows Tamil. And I was faking it because I didn't know Kannada that well. And so we end up going to this customer center meeting where there are 25 women who are very excited to see this young kid come from head office, and they all want to know what he's here about, right? And so we first started, I tried to read out what I had written in Hindi to get the pronunciation right. And it was a big mess. For 25 minutes, we kept trying, then we resorted to sign language, trying to understand where are the problems, how do you like Ujjivan, how do you like the service, etc. It was a big mess. And suddenly, one of the customers, looked back, and she saw this girl who was standing slightly far away. She said, come. And that girl came to me, and she asked me in proper English, I can help you translate, right? This was a girl who was studying for her BCom through correspondence education, and she translated my questions and communicated to the women, and that's how I got my answers. Right? So initially I did a lot of these focus group interviews, but very soon I started realizing that it's best if I stick to Muslim customers who can speak Urdu and Hindi. Right? So I would go to neighborhoods in Bangalore like Vijayanagar and things like that, where Vivek Nagar, KV Sandra, where there was a big Muslim population, and I talked to them. And really try and understand how microfinance has changed their life, right? And I would come back with a lot of input, and I would ask my mentor, that I learned this in the field. Can we do this? Can we do that? Can we use technology? They're saying that they don't really care about interest rates. They care about how quickly they get the money, right? Money is a life and death situation for them. Can we employ technology? Can we really change this? And he used to, sort of engage with me. He really liked some of my ideas, etc. But he said, and not only him actually, he was really encouraging, but the other middle management was sort of discouraging. They said that, look, technology never works at the base of the pyramid. Don't bother trying. One, affordability is a challenge. Two, people have never used technology before, so they don't know what's a phone, etc. Third, there's a language challenge, right? And fourth, it won't fit in our process. It doesn't really work. We have a unique process and things like that. Anyway, one of the things I realized during my internship was that this company was offering us the ability to pre-close your loan, right? So in microfinance, you don't get a loan. If you want 15K, you won't get 15K directly. First year, you will start at 10. Next year, you will get bumped up to 12K, and so on and so forth. So the customers are always interested in closing the loan and opening a loan of a higher amount, right? But just this question of how much do I need to pay to close would take them 15 days, right? And by then they may not have the money or they may not be interested. So Ujjivan had this pre-closure service, but nobody was utilizing this. This was the first in an industry, right? And we realized that it was because of a information delay. So what we built was a simple solution using SMS, where you text in the customer ID. It would hit the core banking system and give out a summary saying this is the customer, these are the loans, this is the amount, right? Very simple Python script connects into the database, pulls it out, and does the work. When I demoed this to the senior management, they got really excited. Right? They said, wow, this is amazing. When I showed it to the field agent, they said, this is exactly what we need, and even the customers loved it. So immediately Ujjivan bought what an intern built. They bought a license because I built it on a third-party license, and they implemented at scale, right? So here I was in 2 months where someone told me that technology never works at the base of the pyramid, to I built something that really works pretty well, right? And as I thought more and more about it, I realized that the key that I built some technology that worked was because our focus was on the field agent. The focus was on empowering the field agent to do a lot more for the customer, right? And technology's role is just to be an enabler, right? So I was really excited by this experience, but I had still one more year of engineering left. So I tried to think about how can we make this even bigger? How can we do more and more online? How can we remove paper so that this process becomes very fast, so that interest rates can drop, and this will become this will have real impact on the ground. But anyway, that was the year of the financial crisis, 2008, 2009, where our placements were pretty bad. And I tried to get a job in the development sector. I even offered to work for free, but nobody accepted. They said, hey, all these people from Harvard are quitting and joining here in India, right? So I had to take up a job with a big bank which would come to my college. And I started thinking about how can I design technology for these field agents who are about 10, 12 past. And one of the things that I did was I bought 2 netbooks from my first salary, right? The bank pays pretty well. I bought 2 netbooks. And I bought these touch screens from Taiwan, and I ripped the netbook apart, right? And I made it into a tablet. This was 2009 when there were no Android tablets. I loaded Android onto this, and there were wires hanging. This is all YouTube. I'm not an electronics genius. I'm an electrical engineer by the way. And YouTube has enough content that can teach you, right? So I went out into the field and I said, what if you had this kind of a device, where you could acquire customers, where you could do your transactions? Wouldn't life be so much easier? So the men got really excited. They saw the wires hanging. They said, this is exactly what we need. This is what we want. I showed it to the women field agents. They said, this is too heavy. This is 1 kg. It won't work. I said, this is the lightest device available, right? But they said, anyway, it doesn't work. And then said, it doesn't fit in my purse. I can't carry it, right? I took it to the senior management. They said, well, if this can last 8 hours in the field, we're okay. We'll implement this. And I took it to the customers. I thought, if we can show some skill videos to the customers, they'll be able to learn something, and that'll be really exciting. And the customers said, well, the screen is too small. I want a larger screen, right? And I want something with louder volume, right? So now we had all these data points which says that, hey, it needs to be a smaller device, needs to be a lighter device. Also at the same time, it needs to have a large screen, needs to have better battery pack and stuff like that. And so as we thought more and more about it, we started realizing hardware is really not what we should be doing, right? And there were all these floods of tablets, $100 tablets, the whole idea of that was starting to pick up momentum in the US. So we said we're going to start a company that will instead focus on the software, right? Hardware is a risky thing, even for the enterprise. They don't want to get locked into something, right? So you realize one of the ways we can mitigate hardware risk is by building it on consumer devices. And consumer devices prices keep falling. You have different features. Maybe you get a projector phone, things like that. So it becomes very exciting. We'll focus on the software. And my dad was, pretty upset with the idea. He said, "This is career suicide." He said, "You have a great thing going. You're working in a bank. Why do you want to do this?" And my co-founder, who was my girlfriend in Indus, now my wife. So I was really lucky. My prospective father-in-law actually helped me. He convinced my dad. He gave me a check. And then seeing him, my dad also gave me a check. And we started this company in May 2010. And the real reason why we started the company was because we just wanted to pilot this solution, right? I just wanted to see this idea work. And the company, G1, which was our MFI client, they said we can't pilot with you unless you're a private limited, right? We need you to be an incorporated entity. We can't do it with an individual. So that's how we really started the company. We were not really, the idea was just to see this idea in action. And so over the last 3.5 years, we've sort of grown this platform. It's a mobile and a cloud-based platform that really tries to improve delivery of essential services, financial services, healthcare, to the base of the pyramid, right? A quick example. So this is the work that we're doing with Ujjivan. This, they offer loans to small micro enterprises, which are like your idli stall, your neighborhood kirana store, right? Where you have to do a full-blown financial analysis. You need to do a full, what is their sales cycle, what is their sales and purchasing patterns like, right? How much net profit, what are the margins, etc. All of this is being done by someone who really doesn't understand, financial concepts, or done by someone who's just about 10, 12 past, no formal financial degree, right? So they input the numbers on the device, it very quickly calculates everything and has all this data. It connects to credit bureaus in real time, so it gets them rich data directly in the field where they can start making a call. And what this has done for Ujjivan is it's dropped their customer acquisition cost by an estimated 45%. Think about that. If your customer acquisition cost dropped by 45%, then your interest rates can drop dramatically, right? And that would be a huge benefit for the customer. And these loans, which were given about 26 days, it would take about 26 days, are now being given in less than 7 days, right? So this can really help them improve their business. Another project that we did was with an entity in Tamil Nadu called ICTPH, where they had a big problem where they needed to, they work with about 6 to 7 villages in a catchment area, and they had to figure out who are the people who have high risk for diabetes, hypertension, diseases like that, right? So it's very difficult to call everyone into your clinic. So they did the opposite. Using our platform, they went out into the field, and it took them, 50% less time to sort of enter the data, quickly take the measurements, and find out whether people were at risk or not. So in about 90 days, we were able to reach out to about 1,700 households. We were able to identify about 200 to almost 500 people who were at risk for these diseases. And we do all of this using really cutting edge technology, right? So a lot of people exist in this space, but they sort of treat this space like how US treated India in the 70s. Like, okay, you can't afford a car, I'll take away 3 wheels and maybe now you can afford this car, right? But people this sector has less money, right? Its affordability is a challenge because their margins are low. But they're not going to take a product which is not a product. They want quality stuff. So what we've done is really invest our skills in using cutting edge technology, making it really affordable, right? And making it work for the base of the pyramid. Now, what we do, and how we do it is also equally important, right? So, typically you would have heard Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates say, hey, we designed a product for ourselves, right? That's how we sold it to other hackers, right, or the developers. But over here, you're designing a product for someone else. So you have to live their lived reality. So we step out, we actually climb on their motorcycles, go out with them into the field to see how they work. We sit with them at their center meetings. We actually observe how their processes, how they conduct their meetings, how they interact with their customers. We then prototype solutions where we become the subjects themselves, and we sort of look at a lot of these usability parameters, and we go with them again and again into the field. We iterate with it until we absolutely get it right? So it's a long drawn process of what people today now call human-centered design, but it's an extremely exciting process. So now we come back to the question of why don't more people do this? Why don't more people design technology for the base of the pyramid, right? And that's been our single biggest challenge in these last 3.5 years, to find people, coders, who are excited about developing technology for the base of the pyramid, right? Everywhere we talk to people, we talk to good sort of hackers, coders, etc. They say, I want to work on hard problems. By hard problems, they mean, okay, I want to work on Facebook's data set, or I want to build a social network, I want to build a graph, things like that, right? But just think about it. Look at our environment. We don't have a data set, but we are building in processes to build that data set. Today we capture 800 data points for every loan that passes through our system, right? We're making it more and more sort of data driven. We are working in a zone where there is connectivity is a challenge. We are working in an area where our users are 10 to 12 past, have never seen a mobile phone before. They're sort of using a smartphone technology for the first time. We are working in a space where if that application crashes, right, the first instinct of the user is, oh, I did something wrong. I'm not this capable. I'm not designed for this. Please don't give this to me. Right? They put it down. And then you tell them, no, I'm really sorry. That was a software bug. That was my mistake. Then whatever happens after this is a software bug. Even if it's simple form validation error saying don't put a number here, they'll say it's your problem, right? So how do you work? And the geographies are even higher. The distances are even higher, right? Our user can't tell us, hey, I have a low, high latency issue from your website, and there's a problem, therefore I can't access. They just tell you binary, it's working and not working, right? So we are working in a zone which is even harder. We are using the same sort of technology stack like a Facebook, where latency is important to us, uptime is important to us. right? All of these things are really critical. And we are sort of working in an environment which doesn't get harder than this, right? So my biggest appeal to you guys is people who have the skills, who love technology, let's build something for India by us, because Facebook is not going to come and solve our problems, right? So we need to sort of take this up ourselves and become hackers for impact and get the next 4 billion people real technology. And just remember, the future belongs to the geeks, because nobody else.